It's hard to believe it's already upon us, but the third and final men's Grand Tour of the year starts this coming Saturday.
Yep, it marks the 80th edition of La Vuelta a España, which started back in 1935. Coming up today, the routes. We will go through all 21 stages in detail, and we're going to talk about the main protagonists for the overall win, the sprints, and the breakaways.
This year sees the return of the Fearsome Angliru. More on that later, but first, let's remind ourselves of how the race was won last year.
Primož Roglič equalled the record by winning his fourth Vuelta title. Ben O'Connor held on for second after taking a chunk of time in an early breakaway, whilst Enric Mas was third. The top 10 was separated by just 11 minutes versus the 32 minutes between the top 10 on GC at the recent Tour de France.
And we're hoping things are going to be as open as that this year, despite none of last year's podium returning. Could be very open though, because Pogačar is not riding. But they might not be as well, because Vingegaard is riding.
Yeah, he might not have his all his own way though, but we will get on to the riders a little bit later. First up, as ever, it's the route. So 3,151 kilometres in total, which is 100 k's less than last year, but similar to the average over the last couple of decades.
According to the official website this year, there are 4 flat stages, one with a high altitude finale.
Hey?
I'm just reading off the website, basically,
right.
Si. I presume it means it's for the sprinters until it's not for the sprinters.
Okay.
Anyway, there are also 6 medium mountain stages, 5 mountain stages, 3 hilly stages with high altitude finales, 1 individual time trial and 2 rest days.
Now, those of you who have been doing quick maths in your head will have worked out that that only adds up to 19 stages. So what gives?
Well, they've missed out on a team time trial, as we'll get onto later. I think they've also missed out a flat stage with a high altitude finish. Again, I was just reading off the Vuelta website.
Anyway, the route stays almost entirely in the northern part of Spain, at least once they get there, because this year the Gran Partida is in Piemonte, in the northwest of Italy.
It is indeed. There are a total of 4 stages up there, the last of which actually heads into France. But let's start at the beginning. Stage 1 starts in Torino and heads to Novara, and this is one of the flat stages.
Without the high altitude finish.
True, yeah.
There's a third cat climb, which is almost 7 kilometres long at 5%, but it comes after just 65 k's. So given the stage is 186 k's in total, it's not going to shape the race.
No, so expect the first leader's red jersey to be worn by a sprinter then. Okay, we don't have to wait long to find that stage that is flat with a high altitude finale. It comes already on day 2, 157 k's to Limone Piemonte.
There is only 1,900 metres of climbing en route, but much of that comes at the end of the stage, as the description suggests. So the final climb hasn't been used recently in a major race. The last one we could find was back at the 2002 Giro d'Italia, where Garzelli won up it on stage 5.
Well, before being disqualified. Anyway, the full climb is 13 kilometres at 4.5% average gradient, but it does gradually ramp up. So the final 6k average close to 6%, and the max gradient of 13% are right at the very top.
So there could be some differences even among the top GC contenders.
Possibly.
There, yeah. Stage 3 has more overall climbing, despite only being 139 k's long. So it goes from San Maurizio Canavese to Ceresi.
And this is the first medium mountain day. So the first climb comes at the midway point of the stage. That's Isilio, if I can get it out. And it's the hardest one they'll have to tackle that day, 5k's at 7%. I used at last year's Giro Next Gen, apparently. The climb to the finish is much more gentle than that, 4 kilometres long, 3% average gradient.
Now, that also featured in the same stage of the Giro Next Gen, and the current KOM leader averaged close to 36 km/h up it, which gives a good indication of its severity, or lack thereof.
I wonder if Lidl Trek might try and control this for Mass Pedersen, you know? If not, I could see that one being a breakaway day. Right, on stage 4, and as mentioned, it takes the race from Italy into France. 207 kilometres from Susa to Voiron, making it the longest of this year's race.
This is another medium mountain day, but those medium mountains are concentrated in the first half of the stage, so there's a small chance that this one will end up in a sprint.
I think the problem the sprinters teams might have that day is trying to control things in the first half, though. There's a third cat climb almost from the start, and that continues directly onto a second cat climb into France, the Col de la Montgenèvre, 1,860 metres above sea level.
Wow.
The classified part of that one is about 8 k's at 6%, then a quick descent, and then straight up the Col de l'Autouré.
Yeah, which goes over 2,000 metres above sea level. It's 13k long at 4.3%. But why could it be a sprint? Well, because from the top, there is 140 k's to go, and that is almost entirely flat or downhill.
It will be interesting to see how that stage pans out. It's an interesting one, isn't it?
That's a lot of pedalling to do if you're in like a breakaway or a bunch of GC guys, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people for sure who'll be trying to get into the break that day. Anyway, after that stage, they're going to make their way to Figueras in Spain, which is 500 kilometres away.
Big stage, that.
Yes, I understand, though, they're going to get a chartered flight from pretty near the finish to pretty near the start of the following day, which is good because it would be about 5 hours if they took the car or bus.
Yeah, okay. Well, either way...
bus, I don't mean public transport.
They aren't getting a rest day the next day, are they? It's straight on to stage 5, which is a team time trial. So 24 kilometres over almost entirely flat roads, and it is not technical either. So it's going to be a fast one.
It will be, yeah.
55k an hour?
Probably, maybe even more, yeah.
Wow.
Good to have a team time trial on a Grand Tour, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Now, there is a risk, obviously, that some big GC names could lose a chunk of time there. But at the same time, this is going to be less than half an hour in terms of duration for the stage. And all the teams are pretty well drilled these days and with decent equipment. So could be quite close.
It could, yeah. Right, stage 6 is the first day in the high mountains as they head from Olot to Pal in Andorra. So this is another stage that starts with climbing from kilometre 0. It's only a third cat, but it does rise over 200 metres in those first 11 kilometres.
Used in the 2019 Vuelta a Catalunya, that climb site.
There you go, mate. I was wondering.
The descent off that one takes them to the first category climb of the race, the Collada de Toses. 25k long, but only 3.6% average graded. To the best of my knowledge / research, pre-preview, this hasn't been used in a major race before.
Well, there you go. It's good to discover new climbs, isn't it? There's a descent after, and then a long valley descent that eventually takes them into Andorra. The first climb there is the Alto de la Colmeia, 4.4 k's at 7.4%, which featured at this race early in 2017. But on this occasion, after the descent, they take on the Coll de Pal, which is 8 k's at 6.7%.
Pavel Sivakov has got the Strava segment there. From a training ride, actually, back in 2022.
Really?
And actually, much of the leaderboard is made up of the riders who weren't racing when they set their times. Andorra, obviously home to a lot of pro riders who are looking to, shall we say, save money at altitude, I think we can say. So a lot of the Vuelta peloton is going to know those climbs particularly well that day.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation living in Andorra, isn't it? Anyway, it should be a decent one to watch. Shouldn't it, really? Right, on to stage 7 then, which is another day in the high mountains. There are 4 categorised climbs over the 188 kilometres between Andorra and Huesca La Maya, I think, which hosts...
I think you were 50% there then, yeah?
50%?
Yeah.
Maya?
That sounded better to me.
Maya.
I mean, I've got no clue, really. I don't know why I'm judging.
Huesca La Maya, which
it.
hosts yet another summit finish.
There's actually over 4,200 metres of climbing that day, 700 metres more than the previous stage. After 13 k's, they hit the Port del Canto. 60 k's later, the Puerta de la Cruz de Perez, then the Col Espina, and finally the brutal ramps of that Huesca La Maya. No, that's wrong.
Rampas Inhumanas?
Almost, perhaps. The last 3 k's or so averaged close to 10%, so it's certainly not easy. But overall, that final climb is 12 k's at 6%.
Okay, now that climb was used, I've discovered in my research, at the Vuelta Aragon in 2018. but it hasn't been used at La Vuelta since 2007.
Crikey, 18 years.
Yeah.
We're still in the northeast of Spain for stage 8, which is a much flatter one, 163 kilometres to Zaragoza, which the race has visited now over 80 times in total.
Crikey.
It's a popular one.
How many editions of the race did we say this was?
1935, can't remember now. Has it visited
think it was
Zaragoza more times than there's been races?
Almost, I think. I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, we're just over 1,200 metres of climbing over that distance. This will be another opportunity for the sprinters. It feels like there are more sprinter stages at this race this year, doesn't it, than, the Tour de France, probably?
I'd say there are, yeah. Even with that flat stage with the high altitude finish. So it's a long one at 196 kilometres, and it heads to the summit finish of... give me a sec, I need to take a run up at this one. Right, the Estación de Esquí de Valdescarré. Valdescarré?
I mean, I don't know how accurate that was, but I'll give you a 9 for effort. 9 out of 10. Simon Clarke won here from the breakaway. Last time it was used at La Vuelta in 2012, would you believe? Whilst Bauke Mollema led in a GC group where over 20 riders were on the same time.
So not a brutal climb then. Official length and gradient is 13.8 kilometres and 5.1%, but the steepest part comes at the bottom, then it flattens off to under 3% over the final 4K.
Yeah, so there might be gaps if
Possibly.
they attack from the bottom. We shall wait and see. Now that brings an end to the first block of racing. The riders will spend their first rest day in Pamplona, in Navarre.
They then resume on Tuesday, the 2nd of September, with a flat stage with an uphill finish.
An uphill finish with a high altitude. Right, okay. This is the second one that wasn't mentioned in the overall
I think
look
so.
at the stages.
I think
okay.
so, yeah. So
a hidden stage.
Another one, yeah. This one heads to Alferreal Lara Belagua.
Okay, so this climb made its debut at the race in 2023, so another newbie, and it's where Remco Evenepoel took his first stage win at the race, having fallen out of the GC the previous day.
9.5k, 6.3%, but again, this one flattens near the top. For stage 11 then, they're in the Basque Country for a stage that starts and finishes in Bilbao.
Oh, you know when they're in the Basque Country, it's going to be a good stage to watch.
Yeah.
Not just because of how many fans will be on the roadside, but also because of the roads in that area. They are made for attacking racing.
And that's certainly the case for this particular stage. It's got 7 classified climbs over 157 Ks. I mean, none of them go above 400 metres above sea level, but they are obviously relentless. 3,200 metres of climbing in total. And I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Same. Yeah, we are a little further east the following day, still in the north of Spain. This one is 145 kilometres and it takes the riders to Los Corrales de Buelna. Did I get that right? I think I got that right. It's a medium mountain day with 2 categorised climbs.
Don't be too harsh in the comments below this preview, please. The last of those categorised climbs is the hardest, and it peaks with 23 Ks remaining. It's the Collada de Brenes, 6.2 kilometres at 8.5%. Last used at the race in 2022, Si. This one looks like a day for the breakaway to me, given that climb comes some way from the finish.
Yeah, stage 13 is the second longest of the race at 203 kilometres. A big day in the mountains, this one, with 2 first category climbs and then an especial category finish. So they all come in the final 55 Ks as well.
So first up, the Alto La Mosqueta, 6.5 Ks at 8.4%. Then the Alto de Caudal, 5.5 Ks at 9%. And then it's time for good old Angry Lou.
Whoa, Angry Lou, aka the Angliru. 13K at an average of 13.4% with a sustained max as well over 20%. It is often hailed as the most brutal climb in all of professional cycling. And it's quite hard to argue with that, isn't it?
It is hard to argue. Even though you know how hard it is, the stats still astound you when you read them out, don't they?
Yeah.
Last used at the race in 2023, and most of you will remember that because it's where Roglic attacked, Vingegaard stayed with him, and they both dropped their teammate in the leader's jersey, Sepp Kuss.
Yeah, that was controversial at the time, wasn't it? Yeah, it put Vingegaard just 8 seconds behind Kuss with 4 stages remaining. But after that, they worked for Kuss, didn't they? And he did go on, of course, as you know, to win the race.
So obviously we can't guarantee that level of drama this year, but nonetheless, this stage could be decisive in the general classification, even though there's more than a week to go still in the race at that point.
Yeah, and there are still 2 more mountain days left to conclude just that second week of racing as well. The first of those, stage 14, heads to Lagos de Somiedo. The climb up there is called Alto de la Farapona, which debuted at the race in 2011.
1,700 metres above sea level. It is a tough old climb, that one. But it's the previous one that has the steeper ramps. With both of them, though, coming at the end of the 136k stage, it's going to be an explosive one.
Yeah, particularly with the fatigue fresh in the legs from Angliru. Now, to end the second week, we've got another stage in the mountains, but on this one, those mountains are concentrated in the first third of the stage, after which it's more rolling and flat.
168 kilometres to Monforte de Lemos, which hosted a finish for the first time back in 2021. This one actually could be really interesting. It does shout breakaway again to me, and given that they hit a 16-kilometre first cat climb straight after kilometre zero, you'd imagine that break is going to be full of climbers and hitters. Without many climbs near the end, though, things could start to get very tactical on that stage.
That does sound pretty tasty, actually, doesn't it? The second rest day is in Pontevedra in Galicia, northwestern Spain. They resume hostilities on Tuesday, the 9th of September, with another medium mountain day.
So this one has 3,500 metres of climbing over 168 kilometres to Castro de Ville and another summit finish. I think I said that in the French way.
You did, yeah.
Either way, officially this one, that climb to the finish, is 9.4 k's at 5%. But it is one of the most irregular climbs that you can possibly imagine.
And not least because it's in the French-speaking part of Galicia.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So it was used as a finish in 2021 where Clément Champoussin, who is French, clipped off whilst the GC riders were looking at each other, basically. It's a similarly undulating route this year with 3 categorised climbs ahead of that one to the finish.
Yeah, stage 17 now, and guess what? More medium mountains. 3,300 metres of climb on this one, over just 142 kilometres. But this time, we definitely do have the Rampas Inhumanas.
The Alto de la Moredero, which it makes its return to the race for the first time since 2006, when Alejandro Valverde took the stage. So it's 8.8 Ks at 9.6% average gradient. But there are some sections close to 20.
Oof, so not quite as hard as the Angliru, but still hard. Should be a good one, that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, stage 18, so nearing the end now. This one is an individual time trial. 27 Ks, almost completely pan flat, barring an 850 metre 6% climb, which comes about a third of the way through the day.
Yeah, in total, though, only 140 metres of climb. So another fast one. That's around Valladolid, which actually hosted the first ever Vuelta stage finish back in 1935.
Oh, good fact.
Thank you very much.
I'll add one, actually, though.
Go on then.
It has hosted 9 time trials at the Vuelta a España over the years.
Has it?
Or not?
They must
like
that.
A good old race against the clock, do they, in that part of the world?
Now, we're still on flatter roads for stage 19, so just 1,500 metres of climbing on this 162-kilometre stage to Guello. Sorry, I'm pausing after all of these. I'm just waiting for you to be like, nah, mate, no.
Well, I've got no idea. I don't speak Spanish either.
Guello. Anyway, it's going to be a tough sprint, isn't it, basically? The final 2K is uphill at 3%, so timing is going to be key there.
After that, it is the final day in the high mountains. So 4,200 metres of climbing greet them on stage 20 to the Puerto de Navacarrera. So you did quite a lot in the Vuelta, that particular climb. This year, they do it twice on the stage, but from 2 different sides. So the last time up is the hardest, 12.4 Ks, over 8%, but the last 3 kilometres averages 12.4%.
Whoa, that is a savage way to end the race, isn't it? So there are 5 classified climbs over the 166 kilometres, including one from the start. After that, they'll head to Madrid for the fairly traditional finishing laps around the capital. So after 60k or so of parading, they will start the first of 9 laps, which should be the final sprint finish of the race.
Well, I noticed you said should, because as many of you will remember, a couple of years ago, a few big-name riders ripped the rule book up, didn't they? Including Ganna, Evenepoel, and eventual winner of the stage, Caden Groves. That was such a good stage to watch, that one.
Got to say, I do like a rule book being ripped up every now and then. Or at least that rule book, not other rules. Right, that is the route, isn't it? Before we get on to the riders, we will point you towards the GCN shop, where once again, we have got a whole load of merchandise available to celebrate a month of racing in Spain.
Hopefully you like the designs. I think they'll be springing up on screen now because we haven't got them just yet.
I'm wearing one.
Oh, is that a new one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, crikey. I haven't got one yet then, shall we?
It was so good, so popular from last year. This one we've actually brought back in 2024.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Could have brought mine in as well then.
You could have done, mate, yeah.
I noticed you've steamed that.
Oh, I actually ironed it.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. I couldn't get the steamer to
I'm
work.
not sure I believe that. But anyway, if you'd like to make a purchase, head over to shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com or simply scan the QR code, should I say, that's on the screen now. Your support, as ever, is hugely appreciated.
It is, yeah. Right, let us talk through the riders. The big favourite this year is Jonas Vingegaard. So he starts La Vuelta having finished second overall to Tadej Pogacar, of course, at the Tour de France, and second to his own teammate Sepp Kuss in this race 2 years ago.
I think it's fair to say that he could have won that year were he not being generous and giving back to the teammate who's done so much for him over the years as well. Anyway, it means he's proven that he can back up one top Grand Tour performance with another, although you never really know how someone is going to go on that second effort, and I'd say particularly the Vuelta after the Tour.
Well, after this particular Tour, which was
brutal.
Brutal, yes. Now, at least he'll be the sole leader this year, and it's a strong team to back him up, actually. Kuss, the former winner, has finally settled back into a helper role, hasn't he? Plus Jorgensen, who might be a second GC option. And then all but one of Tullet, Van Baarle, Walter, Zingle, Campenaerts and Kelderman.
Yeah, they've still to decide which one's going to miss out as we record this. But whatever the outcome, pretty strong, I would say, as Grand Tour squads go. I'll be very interested to see how Vingegaard's form is. We mentioned this earlier, but he said he felt pretty fresh, despite the brutality of the Tour, towards the end of that race, which I guess bodes well, doesn't it? Now, despite the absence of Pogacar, UAE will still pose the biggest challenge, we think, to Vingegaard's ambitions.
No, so they don't have a previous Grand Tour winner in their team, but they do have two riders touted to do exactly that at some point, potentially in the next month.
Maybe.
So João Almeida is one of them. He had to withdraw from the Tour de France after crashing in the opening week, remember? Whilst the other is Juan Ayuso, who withdrew from the Giro through illness. Yeah,
this is going to be Ayuso's 5th Grand Tour. Hasn't actually finished the last 2 that he started, but then he finished 3rd and 4th in this race in 2022 and 23 respectively. Almeida also hasn't finished his last 2 Grand Tours, but then his consistency in stage racing this season, where he's won 3 World Tour level stage races, does suggest he should be right up there vying for the win if he's recovered from his crash.
Yeah, so the team to back them up are Bjerg, Grosschartner, Vine, Novak, Oliveira and Soler. Again, a solid squad for all-terrain, basically, but whenever UAE don't have Pogacar, they don't seem quite as cohesive.
No.
And that storyline could be as entertaining as the race itself.
Very true, Si, very true. I'll also be interested to see how good Ayuso is at this race, because he wasn't actually supposed to be racing La Vuelta when Pogacar was still planning on doing it himself. So perhaps his preparation for this race has been far from ideal, you can imagine. There are also rumours circulating that he's hired a new agent to try and get him out of his long-term contract with UAE.
Wow. Now, neither suggests much in the way of harmony, does it?
No,
exactly. So now the 4th favourites, with the bookies at least, is Richard Carapaz of EF. So he had been down through the Tour de France, but got ill just before. So we've got zero indication on his form, and in fact his ambition, because he hasn't raced since the Giro d'Italia in May, where he came 3rd.
I do hope he goes for the GC rather than just stage wins here, because he is so good to watch when he's on form, isn't he? And he's just made for Grand Tours. Now, 5th on the favourites list for the bookies was Enric Mas, but he's not going to be racing again this season. He was diagnosed with thrombophlebitis in his leg, which is a real shame for the race itself.
Do we know what thrombophlebitis is?
I think it's a sort of little clot in a vein. I don't know the full extent to it, but hopefully he'll be back in top shape next season.
Well, hopefully so, yeah. Next up, Giulio Ciccone. Now, those of you who watched our Giro preview might remember that we were surprised he was such short odds, given that he's never finished in the top 10 on GC at a Grand Tour.
And given that he didn't finish the Giro, albeit due to a crash, I guess that doubt still remains, at least for me anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him up there because he's another really exciting rider to watch. He's always attacking. I just need some sort of proof that he can pull 3 consistent weeks together.
I seem to remember you said something similar about Pauline Ferrand-Prévôt at the Tour de France.
I might have said something along those lines, and she gave those signs in the end, didn't she? So I won't doubt it from it.
Yeah, there's an indication that she can do well, isn't there? Right. Anyway, that could be a good sign for you, Giulio. He did look good in Burgos. Yeah, and he probably would have won if he hadn't crashed on the opening stage.
Well, he crashed because Del Toro took him down with his hand, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly that. Lidl Trek are likely to also have Theo Geoghegan-Hart, who missed out on the Tour de France through illness, whilst Mads Pedersen will no doubt be trying to win the points jersey.
And actually, if he does win the points jersey at the Vuelta, it will mean that Lidl Trek have won that competition in all 3 Grand Tours this season. I mean, obviously not quite as impressive as Jumbo-Visma winning the GC at all 3 a couple of years ago, but quite a feat nonetheless, I would say, to pull it off. More on Mads Pedersen later on.
Yeah, okay. Next up, Mikel Landa, 40-1 as we record this, but that's for good reason because he crashed out of the Giro on the first weekend with very serious injury, fracturing his TH11 vertebrae.
He did get to resume racing at that recent Vuelta a Burgos, and the signs were pretty good, I'd say, there, all things considered. He ended up 16th overall. He'll lead Soudal Quick-Step, but they've also got Valentin Parry-Pant, stage winner, of course, on Mont Ventoux at the Tour de France, and Luis Vervaeke, who missed out on that race after crashing at the Dauphiné just beforehand.
Yeah, after that, we've got Jai Hindley. He leads Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Like Landa, he crashed out the Giro and got back into racing in Burgos, where he was 25th on GC. So perhaps it's hard to read too much into that, though, isn't it? Because you never know when someone is simply trying to get themselves back into the swing of racing rather than actually racing.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you see less of that these days because they're so good at training, but you want the racing rhythm before a Grand Tour, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm personally really interested to see how Giulio Pellizzari goes for that same team, Red Bull. He really backed up the promise he showed at last year's Giro by finishing 6th overall in this edition of the race, or this year's edition of the race. He's young, so a second Grand Tour in the season might be too much, but he is clearly a big talent, isn't he?
Yeah.
Red Bull have also got Alexander Vlasov.
Yeah, next to the odds is Jorgensen, who we've already mentioned, haven't we? And then on to Derek G of IPT. He's 50-1. He was 4th overall at the Giro, though, which is a mighty impressive result, wasn't it? His only races since then have been the Canadian National Championships, where he finished 2nd in the time trial and he won the road race.
Yeah. I really like the way that Derek G races. I think he'll do well here at the Vuelta. I mean, he is one of the heavier GC riders, isn't he? So steep climbs like the Angliru might not suit him too well, but he's the type of rider that I could envisage doing a Ben O'Connor, i.e. getting some time on the other big GC rivals by getting into a breakaway in the first week.
Yeah. I will probably get proven wrong by Derek, but I also have a feeling that being an ex-track rider doesn't help on steep gradients.
No, why? How steep are the boardings on the track?
I mean, if he was doing like laps up and down the track. But no, I mean, it feels like that low cadence or low speed stuff. It's completely it.
Or maybe the new gears will help him, modern gears.
It's all about inertia, mate. Anyway, one for another day. IPT also got Matthew Riccitello, haven't they, who will love the steep climbs, and Marco Frigo, who I think is due a stage win at a Grand Tour, isn't he?
I'd say that.
He certainly looked strong in Poland recently. Right, next up, 2 riders who I'm surprised to see at 66-1, Felix Gall and Egan Bernal.
Should we start with Bernal?
Go on then.
Actually, he ended up 7th on the GC at the Giro d'Italia, which is his best result at a Grand Tour overall since that big crash in 2022, and by quite some margin. If he has managed to continue making improvements since then, you never know. A podium might be possible. Yeah,
he was 6th overall at the Vuelta a Burgos, wasn't he? Which is there or thereabouts, isn't it? Given that we've just talked up Landa and Hindley for coming 16th and 25th, I would say it's better. But yeah, I mean, a podium, that'd be huge for him.
Oh, it would be. Absolutely massive, yeah. And then the other one was Felix Gall, wasn't it, for Decathlon AG2R. He was 5th overall at the Tour de France, and that's nothing to be sniffed at. And there's going to be far fewer technical descents and a slightly calmer peloton, I'd say, in the roads of Spain there. We know he doesn't like either of those two, so I guess that could be to his advantage.
Yeah. Cheeky little bet, that. 66-1.
But you just never know. I mean, because there's so few riders who make the Vuelta their only priority of the year. So for the rest, you just got very little idea of how good they're going or how motivated they are.
This is true. I mean, we just have to wait and see how well he's come out of the Tour as well, haven't we? We should keep our eyes on his teammate as well, Leo Bizot. He was 3rd overall in Burgos, wasn't he? And took a stage win. So given he's a first-year pro,
seems quite talented, doesn't he? Yeah,
fairly.
I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes as well. And indeed, Johannes Storner-Mittech from that same team, Decathlon too. Now, the next rider on the betting list is my dark horse for a podium side, Antonio Tiberi.
Oh, yeah.
He is 80-1, or at least he was when I was looking at it earlier.
Okay.
I think he should be much shorter odds. I mean, the Giro obviously didn't go to plan, lost a chunk of time through a crash midway through the race, but he's a really solid rider at Grand Tours and stage races in general. He's going to lead Bahrain victorious after quite a strong recent showing at the Tour of Poland.
Yeah, so we've got Damiano Caruso as well, a stage winner in Burgos. Tom Pidcock is next on the odds, isn't he? So he was 16th on GC at the Giro d'Italia. He said he's hoping for a top 10 at this race, and if he does, it'll be his best ever overall result at a Grand Tour.
Yeah, I think his best before was 13th, wasn't it? Won a stage recently at the Arctic Race of Norway, so his form is clearly good, although this is a very different race, obviously.
Right, other potential GC riders are Lorenzo Fortunato and Harold Lopez of XDS Astana. They've also got Wout Poels, haven't they, for stages. Max Poole of Pitney Post NL, Eddie Dunbar of Jayco Alula, and David Gaudu of Groupama.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with him. Again, wanting to see whether he's going for stages or for the GC. I'd imagine the former. Well, that's just a guess, really, but we'll see. Anyway, that's it for the GC riders, at least from the start list that we have available to us at the moment. We are actually recording this a little bit early this year, so there could be some big name additions still to come. With that in mind, let's move on to the sprinters. Mads Pedersen's got to be first on the list, you'd say. He won 4 stages of the Giro back in May, and the points jersey we mentioned earlier too. Plenty of time to freshen up since then as well. He rode his national championships where he won the time trial and finished second in the road race to his teammates. And he looked pretty decent in Denmark last week as well.
Yeah, he is such a versatile rider as well, isn't he? So plus the Vuelta really suits him, as we saw in 2022 when he won 3 stages there. So he's definitely going to be the rider to beat in the sprint.
Yeah, unless somebody just turns up that we weren't expecting. And he'll be the favourite, I would say, in part because sprinters do tend to avoid the Vuelta for the last probably 10 years now, don't they? So the most decorated pure sprinter of all those taking part is actually Elia Viviani. So he got a last-minute contract with Lotto this year. Did pay them back with a stage win in the Tour of Turkey, but that's been his only win of the season so far.
And if he does take a stage win, it'll be his first at a Grand Tour since the 2019 Tour de France.
6 years.
6 years,
Crikey. Ethan Vernon is seriously fast when he's on form, and if he gets good runs to the line as well, he's here for IPT.
Yeah, he has had 1 win this year, hasn't he? Back at the Volta Catalunya in March. Arne Marit will also look at the start sheet and think probably he's got a decent chance of getting a good result for Intermarché, despite not being perhaps a top tier sprinter. And they've also got Luca van Boven as well.
Also be interesting to see whether Alex Zingle and Filippo Ganna get involved in the sprints, won't it? Zingle is primarily there in support of Vingegaard, but might be given his own chances, you never know. Whilst Ganna has been pretty good at Vuelta sprints in the past, but he doesn't really like getting involved if it's too chaotic and hectic.
No, he will almost certainly be the favourite for the individual time trial, though, won't he? Either way. Speaking of which, Remy Cavagna is the other TT specialist to watch out for outside of the GC riders.
I was going to say, yeah. Right, as we said, a few more sprinters might well be named on the start list after we've recorded this, but they haven't been yet, so we'll move on to our predictions.
Okay, podium places and the jersey winners again?
Yeah, let's go for it. I've been thinking about this for a good couple of weeks.
Well, I bet you have. Yeah, go on then. You go first, because I've forgotten to think about it again.
Podium, not particularly interested in this one, but I'm going to go Vingegaard, Almeida, but then Tiberi.
Oh, yeah.
Third.
Nice.
Pedersen, the obviously one for the points, so I'll go with him. Under 25 youth jersey, I'm going to go for Giulio Pellizzari.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think Ayuso's preparation would have been ideal. And then for the KOM, Riccitello.
Oh, yeah. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think he's a good climber, but I don't think he'll go for GC.
No. He looked a lot better than Ollie did when he filmed with him, didn't he, in Arizona that time. Okay, I've been thinking quickly.
Okay.
Podium. Vingegaard, Almeida, Ayuso.
Oh, you think Ayuso will be up there?
I think so, yeah. And that'll be a nice UAE soap opera, I think, which is what we're all here for. And that would also therefore mean Ayuso for white as well. Pedersen for green. And, oh man, how do you pick the KOM?
Oh, it is so difficult, yeah. Because anyone could just fall out of GC and then think, I'll go for the KOM jersey.
Yeah. Carapaz.
Nice one.
There you go. Curveball. Yeah. I mean, I hope not, because I'd like to see him go for GC, but...
I don't think there are any odds yet on the KOM jersey, but I'd imagine Carapaz is slightly shorter than Riccitello.
Well, yeah, if he bothers to go for it, though, right?
Well, that's the thing. That's the gamble, Si.
I wouldn't do it, mate. I would not gamble.
Right.
Definitely not on pro cycling.
Don't forget, you can watch a full season of bike racing live on Discovery Plus or Max, including the entire Vuelta a España. Although not every stage is produced live from start to finish, unlike the Giro and the Tour de France. Make sure you get involved in the comments with your own predictions and what you are expecting from the race this year too.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon.